Harambee! Neno hili si hivyo. Mambo ni matatu.
Ladies and gentlemen, Edwin Sifuna or is it Junet Mohamed has ignited a debate which most of ODM supporters have been always looking forward to. The debate about Raila Odinga, 2022 presidential campaigns and the laws.
Wewe Junet, pesa ya uhuru ilianza kuwa mbaya siku gani? Siku ile ulikuwa unachukua hiyo pesa na hata yote hukuleta kwa chama, ingine ulikula peke yako na mabibi yako. Siku ile tutaanza audit ya uchaguzi wa mwaka 2022. Ni vizuri umeanzisha hiyo debate, kila mtu aseme ile kazi alifanya 2022. Wewe ulikuwa unakula pesa ya uhuru, badala ulipe agents, ukaacha hawa kina Wamunyoro wakatupiga 10-0. Saa hii tunalia huko nje. Kama sio wewe Junet, tungekuwa kwa serikali. So, mimi huwezi nitisha bwana.
In this video, I want us to talk about the role played by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, whether he engineered the laws or whether Raila Odinga and his allies messed up the campaign.
So what does that tell you? If Uhuru wanted Raila to win elections, number one, would Koome be the Chief Justice? No. He would leave it to Ouko because he would tell him, okay, me I'm leaving. I want to leave you with the Chief Justice. Ouko was overqualified. Okay, let Ouko be the Chief Justice. But why Koome? What was being planned? Are you seeing these things? Because if I'm not interested, then why should I insist on Koome? I should just leave it to who? To Ouko. In case of anything. But suppose there is Koome, then things would be protected again. Then that brings us back to again the long con. So, there's a day I called Kibicho. I told Kibicho.
Because recently I listened to Uhuru Kenyatta's people, someone like Karanja Kibicho. And I was like, really?
We had the state machinery, we had the deep state, so to speak. You had the incumbency, you had all that it could have taken for you to retain power. But as it be right now, you are outsmarted by Dr. William Ruto. And now he's the president of the country.
I don't think Dr. Ruto...
Was it a political sleight of hand that really came from that left side that you never anticipated? Was it a poor strategy from your end as well? Did you fail?
You know, this question...
The Azimio.
This question, I keep getting. There's a group of Kenyans who think, in fact, at around that time when people you know, results are trickling in, and there are a group of people saying, even if Ruto is leading, Kibicho atu hapo. You know, iwezi kuwa hivi. And I ask a basic question. Would you have wanted Kibicho to rig elections so that Raila wins? I mean, that's the basic question. Because Ruto had more votes than Raila. So would you have chosen that Kibicho breaks the law and rigs so that Raila wins, even though Raila was being supported probably by the state machinery? Would you rather that Kibicho broke the law and started stuffing boxes against the will of the people for government to look effective? And I will remain eternally grateful to both the fourth president and Raila, because they did not place a call to us to tell us to change the will of the people.
In this video, I want us to ask ourselves several questions. But first of all, let me go through the response which Junet Mohamed offered. Because in that response, several answers are in it. First of all, let me read for you the response. For immediate release, I wish to respond to Senator Edwin Sifuna, the ODM Secretary General who moonlights for former President Uhuru Kenyatta within our party and who has challenged me to explain why agents in 2022 general elections were neither paid nor present at their designated polling stations. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth of the matter is that in 2022, something very interesting happened. ODM Party did not have agents. For those who remember, in 2017, the reason why the Supreme Court nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's win was because ODM agents were actually able to pinpoint where rigging took place. In 2022, ODM Party could not challenge the results because they did not have agents. Let me proceed. And Junet is saying the answer is simple, clear, and verifiable. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta released funds meant for the elections agents to his blood brother Mohoho Kenyatta. I think that second paragraph answers the question as to whether Uhuru Kenyatta released money for agents. But did that money really reach the intended people? One thing I know for sure, and I've been asking myself, that ODM Party as a party has followers, people who believed in Raila Odinga. ODM structures itself was enough to provide agents. I don't know what was so special about ODM agents to an extent that it had to be procured through other people. Let us proceed with what Junet Mohamed is saying here. Mohoho then appointed one, Patrick Mburu, to take charge of recruitment and paying payments of agents. Again, that answer, it can make sense, but to someone like me, it doesn't make sense for the simple reason that someone like Mburu, never been part of ODM, not known political operator, taking charge of recruitment. How? Raila Odinga Secretariat ought to have come up with a list of the agents and then presented that agents to these people. And even if this guy was supposed to be now the guy in charge, then he ought to have worked with that list. Let us proceed. Junet is suggesting here that Mr. Mburu presented himself as an IT expert, claiming he had the capacity to detect and prevent any manipulation of results by IEBC. To date, Mr. Mburu remains an aide of Uhuru Kenyatta. Just this past weekend, Mburu traveled to Nigeria in the company of Uhuru Kenyatta and Kalonzo Musyoka, a clear evidence that he is not a peripheral figure in these matters. Around the time, Uhuru Kenyatta operated from an office in Westlands that was so restricted that even Raila Odinga, the party presidential candidate, could not access it freely. I don't understand, because ODM and Raila Odinga had a presidential campaign secretariat. Why then try to access the other secretariat? A lot of things, you're already saying a lot of things here, but I don't want to get into most of the things he's trying to say. The truth of the matter is that based on this statement up to that stage by Junet Mohamed, two things are clear: that Uhuru Kenyatta released funds for the agents. Number two, those funds never reached the intended people. So the question is, who messed up with the ODM campaign money for the agents? That is the question which I want us to answer. And maybe even if you will not be able to answer, I want us to ask a few questions. Before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin with the first question. Did Uhuru support Raila's bid in 2022? For me, and I've always maintained this, and I will continue maintaining it, that Uhuru Kenyatta did everything possible for Raila Odinga to become the next president of the Republic of Kenya after exiting office. That did not happen. Why? Personally, I think Raila Odinga himself, his family, and the close allies messed up that campaign, because Raila Odinga had choppers ready. Raila Odinga had his own secretariat. But again, if on the issue of agents alone, one of the aspects of the campaign, they could not manage. Now we are in a situation where even people like Mohoho are being blamed. I don't understand. Even if Uhuru had not provided money for these agents, ODM Party should have put in place measures to ensure agents were promptly paid. Granted, Uhuru Kenyatta was also betrayed, which begs the second question. Was Uhuru Kenyatta betrayed, and by who? The truth of the matter is that those people who are close, to Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta messed up Uhuru Kenyatta big time. Of all the deep state members around Uhuru Kenyatta, the only person who was sincere, the only person who was honest in his support for Raila Odinga was none other than George Kinoti. And that's why immediately William Ruto took over, Kinoti became his enemy. He kicked Kinoti out. People like Monica Joma were there. So you can imagine a situation where Uhuru wants Raila Odinga to be the president. Then one of the key people Uhuru Kenyatta trusted is Monica Joma. Then that Monica Joma sits in all decision-making organs of Raila Odinga's campaign. But immediately those meetings ends, William Ruto gets everything. So it means most of Uhuru Kenyatta's allies were in this campaign to sabotage. They did not believe in Raila Odinga. And I can mention some of them. Some of them were immediately appointed by Ruto, retained by Ruto to continue serving. So as much as Uhuru Kenyatta did everything, he failed to realize that his team was compromised. This is the team that really frustrated that campaign. But again, Uhuru Kenyatta was not running. The person who was running for the presidency was none other than Raila Amolo Odinga. So Raila Odinga as the candidate ought to have had a parallel, in my view, parallel secretariat, parallel agents, parallel way of detecting any ill motives. And my third question, was it the responsibility of Uhuru Kenyatta to procure agents for Raila Odinga? Because why should Raila Odinga supporters accuse Uhuru Kenyatta of not doing much? I don't understand. Today, if I'm running for the presidency and person X agrees to support me and two of his friends are not for me, what should I do? Yeah? It was also the responsibility of Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, William Ruto was so wise to an extent that he captured the people around Uhuru Kenyatta without Uhuru Kenyatta knowing. He captured IBC without the deep state knowing. So for me, it was the responsibility of Raila Odinga. But remember, that was not their concern. Their concern was about sharing power. I know, and personally, I'm waiting for Junet Mohamed to release further statements. Because the truth is, there are people who are being blamed, Junet included, Johobi included, while the real people who frustrated Raila Odinga's campaign are outside there. Personally, I know them. Personally, if you have to ask me, I can name 2 or 3 of them who really frustrated the campaigns. For example, you see, Junet Mohamed is being accused because he was close to Raila and he was in the field. You can't expect someone who is in Lodwar to organize the issue of agents. He's campaigning in Lodwar. Junet was the MC in most of Raila Odinga's campaign, which means there ought to have been back-end. Who was managing the back-end campaign of Raila Odinga? Those are some of the questions which someone will be able to ask. Which someone should actually be able to ask. And my last question, who was in charge of Raila Odinga's campaign? Who? Who was really in charge? Was Raila himself in charge? Was Uhuru Kenyatta himself in charge? Was Junet Mohamed himself in charge? Who was the head of Raila Odinga's secretariat? Who was really in charge of this campaign? Was Winnie Odinga in charge of Raila Odinga's campaign? Because for me, as much as I disagree with Uhuru Kenyatta on many things, I personally strongly believe Uhuru did the best for Raila Odinga. But he was betrayed by his people. Raila Odinga was also failed by people around his campaign. I remember in 2017, of course in 2024, I did not pay much attention, but in 2017, Raila Odinga and his team lost focus. They started sitting down to divide, figure out how to distribute the cabinet, even before killing the lion. The elephant, is this the elephant? I don't know what you think. But for me, this is a very interesting debate. I do want to hear more of Sifuna, more from Sifuna, more from Winnie, because Winnie was also in charge of that campaign. I do want to hear more from Junet, also more from someone like Joho. I know there's also the story. I know there's also this narrative that Luo Nyanza did not turn out to vote, which is also another false narrative. The truth is, if you look at the IBC results, because those figures are there, allow me to share them with you here. If you look at these IEBC results, you will realize that all Nyanza counties, the turnout was not low. But again, if you look at Mombasa, you look at Kilifi, which are traditionally Raila Odinga strongholds, what about their turnout? Very low. Why? It means someone somewhere engineered the low turnout in those Raila Odinga strongholds. And now, the people of Nyanza are being blamed, which is not the truth. Because if you have 100% turnout, that's not acceptable. Within 5 years, several people have died. Several people have changed their voting places. And ladies and gentlemen, the truth is Raila Odinga lost because he was betrayed by his people. Uhuru Kenyatta was also betrayed by people close to him. I don't know what to think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Liba Makwiny. Bye-bye.